Joining me live is Assistant Immigration Minister Matt Thistlethwaite and Liberal Senator Hollie Hughes. It's great to see you both. Thanks for coming on the program. Matt, you heard the Shadow Finance Minister there. The Coalition is calling on the government to convene an urgent national cabinet with the states to address Australians' falling standard of living due to a cost of living and a national approach to rein in government spending. Is this something that the government will support, and will you look at the recommendations from this committee report?
We'll certainly look at the recommendations, and we know that Australians are struggling with cost of living. That's why it's been the number one priority of this government. That's why we instituted the tax cuts. That's why we have the energy rebates in place. That's why we've made medicines cheaper. That's why we boosted the childcare rebate. That's why we expanded paid parental leave. All of these measures aimed at ensuring we're supporting Australians with the cost of living. And Jane Hume there might want to think about supporting some of those measures instead of voting against them, as the opposition did on a number of those measures. So we appreciate that Australians are struggling with cost of living, but that's why we put in place all of these measures to try and help people get through this difficult period.
But Hollie, is it those measures and government spending that is attributing to or contributing to this crisis that we're seeing?
Absolutely. Australians don't need a report to tell them that their standard of living has fallen since this government has been in power. We know the average family needs to find an additional $35,000 a year in mortgage repayments. It's a substantial amount of money that families are having to find just to keep a roof over their heads. Energy bills have gone through the roof. The price of groceries have gone through the roof. Some of these initiatives the government has put in place have actually just been a tricky way to try and undermine inflation and make it look lower through the direct payments to the energy companies. And we're seeing that this government spending is just continuing to increase. We've seen that it's gone up another 5% GDP in the June quarter to 27%. It's just extraordinary, the volume of government spending, and it doesn't look like Albanese and his ministers are able to rein that in at all. And that means we're just going to see inflation higher for longer, interest rates higher for longer. And as we're going to start to see more and more Australians facing bracket creep and paying more and more personal income tax every single year.
Labor has launched a new ad that targets opposition leader Peter Dutton, saying Australians would be $7,600 worse off under Peter Dutton. Matt, is this a taste of what's to come over the next several months leading up to the election?
Well, we're informing people what's at risk if Peter Dutton is elected, and a number of measures. Take, for instance, Medicare. The government has dramatically increased the Medicare rebate to try and boost bulk billing. We've opened close to 60 urgent care clinics across the country to ensure that Australians can get health care that's all bulk billed quickly when they need it. Now, these are policies that have been opposed by Peter Dutton. And if he's elected, you can bet your life that those urgent care clinics would be at risk. So it's about informing the Australian people about what's at risk if a Dutton government is elected, and all this progress that we've made around better health care, support for cost of living, progress on net zero and reducing emissions and creating a cleaner environment for our kids. All of that's at risk if Peter Dutton is elected.
Hollie, is that $7,600 figure correct?
Absolutely not. I mean, let me tell you another figure that's not correct that we heard from the Labor government, and that was that your power bills would be $275 cheaper. I mean, this is just typical Labor smear campaign. I mean, I don't even think Matt could sound convincing there when he's talking about the progress this government's made on cost of living. I don't think any Australian feels this government has made progress on addressing cost of living. And when it comes to healthcare, we know bulk billing rates have plummeted. We also know that childcare, despite all the rhetoric of cheaper childcare has increased significantly costs for every family since this government has come into power. So it's a typical smear by Labor. I'm sure we're going to see plenty more of it because they don't have a positive message to sell on what they've achieved over the past 2 years, because all they've achieved is a decline in living standards, higher mortgage payments, higher energy bills, higher grocery bills, and Australian families know it. So it doesn't matter how wide and how deep the smears are, Australians are going to see it for exactly what it is.
Matt,
well, I think I should respond to that, Kenny.
Yep.
The opposition doesn't have a plan, and that's the point. All of these policies that we put in place have been opposed by the opposition, and they don't have a plan. The only
'Cause they're not
policy that they've
working.
announced is nuclear energy, and we know that is 20, 30 years away, and it's much more costly. It's going to push up people's
I think you should watch a
electricity
documentary on
prices
Sky tonight.
by quite a bit, and that is why that figure is so important, because it demonstrates to the Australian people that if Peter Dutton is elected and they go down this ridiculous path of nuclear energy, you're going to pay more for your electricity. And all of those policies that Hollie mentioned, they haven't come up with an alternative.
Okay.
I don't know what their policies
Sorry,
are.
is
to
the
support
election
Australians
campaign
cost of
on?
living.
Sorry, is there an election campaign on? I mean, we don't know when the election is. So, you know, oppositions don't always announce their policies just out into the
You don't have
ether. We're
any?
not in. Well, we do
Okay,
have
Hollie and
policies,
Matt,
and we'll announce them when we get into the election
apologies for
campaign.
butting in, but we have to run. But it's been great to talk to you both once again. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Kenny.